Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. My guests on today's episode are twin brothers Ryan and Rob Koharchik, both designers in the theater world, who are based in Indianapolis. Join me now as I go on the aisle with Ryan and Rob. Good afternoon, Ron and Rob Koharchik. This is a dream for me to have you guys together. Have you ever done an interview together with anybody?
We have.
Oh, you have? Darn it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, who got that exclusive?
It was with Matt Sosi at WFOA. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I admire him. I've been on his show myself, and he's very resourceful. So, you know, it's not as if it was an original idea, but nevertheless, here you are. Do you have a good time being together in that show?
Yeah.
He's a really good interview. But in this case, I was looking over your bios that you sent, and I was just marveled at your credits because I've been covering the arts and I've been a reviewer for over 45 years. So I've seen a lot of work. So I dare say I've seen a huge portion of your two separate bodies of work, you know. I've seen a lot of your shows, and I tell you, it goes without saying I've been impressed, and I'm sure I've even written about it and pointed out because I like to do that as a reviewer. I think that's part of the experience, and, you know, it's very important for me to credit people who do the lighting and the set design and the costuming and so on and so forth. So please, let's open with each of you sort of giving me a brief thumbnail sketch, and for our listeners, a little bit about your careers. So let's just start with you, Rob.
Sure. You know, I moved to Indianapolis in 94, I think it was. And it's funny because I moved here. Some friends had some work here in Indianapolis. I was just out of grad school. So I stopped through on my way back from Tennessee. We both grew up in Hammond, Indiana. That's where we were born. And so all of my stuff was up in my folks.
You and Gene Shepard.
Yeah,
exactly. The story. Yeah.
Okay. And anyway, so I moved down here, and my thought was to just make some money, then maybe head out. I had some friends heading out to L.A., you know, to be art directors and all that. And I thought, oh, that sounds fun, but I had no money. So I stopped and had some work here. But I met my now wife here, and then I met Janet Allen, who was a big...
and your wife, you have
and my wife.
Yeah,
and my wife.
And who would that be?
That's Constance Macy.
Yes.
She's the artistic director at the Phoenix Cultural Center.
Yes.
So shout out to her. And then I was picking up work, and I freelanced out of Indianapolis for about 8 years before pretty much anywhere. You know, certainly here in the city, I was designing for the Indiana Rap and the Phoenix, and we did some stuff at the Children's Museum. The Children's Museum. Yeah. I was also getting work at Rochester, New York, Jiva Theater. I met some people out there, and then other places, you know, around the country. So everything was going great. And then Purdue called. Their set designer just retired unexpectedly over the summer. And so they called. They were looking for someone. I think Ryan interviewed for the lighting position. And they said, hey, do you know anybody do you know a set designer that is close by? He said, as a matter of fact, I do know somebody. And so we actually taught up there for about 4 years, I think. And then he left, and then I got the position at Butler. And I've been there and freelancing ever since.
Well, I'm sure that's a theme in your life. You both send each other work all the time, right?
Yeah, I think we have.
That's an advantage of twindom, if you will. Yeah, and how about you?
Very similar. I moved down in 95. I was assisting designers in Chicago, working at some of the smaller theaters up there, living with our parents. But I was coming down here frequently for work, loading in at Civic, working with Dance Kaleidoscope, you know, on their productions. And Civic offered me a job as a resident lighting designer in 95. So I said, you know what? Very similar to Rob. I said, that would be great. I would come down, pay some bills off, put some money in the bank, and then maybe go back to Chicago or New York. I wasn't really planning on staying. But, you know, when I got down here, I started working with the Gregory Hancock Dance Theater, along with Civic Theater, and then picked up work at the Indiana Repertory Theater, the Children's Museum. We did some shows there. We actually started a small company, the Shadow Wave Theater Company, there for a while in the, what was it, late 90s, early 2000s, I think.
I'll never forget it. Peeps.
The- So, yeah, we ended up saying, because I had all this work, eventually I would come to meet my wife, and I directed Aida for the Civic.
Who's your wife?
Michaela Koharchik. Michaela Reed is her maiden name. And we met. I cast her as a nurse in the Civic
She's an
production.
actor.
She's an instructional coach at Zionsville Middle School, but she was doing shows for a number of the community theaters in the area. And she auditioned for a nurse at Civic for our production of Aida. I was directing it, and I cast her. And we got to know each other, and lo and behold, we just celebrated 14 years of marriage, and we have 2 kids and 2 boys, and, you know.
Is she performing any longer?
Oh, yeah, she still performs. Nothing at the moment, because the summer's going to get kind of light, but we'll see what comes up next season.
Wow. And both of you married people who were in the theater. I mean, your family gatherings, I got to ask right off the bat, do you talk shop, or do you manage to stay away from it, or is it inevitable, or what?
No, I think sometimes, but most of the time, we're usually just talking about, you know, our kids and, you know, and enjoying, you know, our time together. Our oldest brother and sister, we often get with, you know, with their families when they come down. They're not in the theater at all, you know, they do it through. So we end up just talking about.
I find that non-theater people, it's outside their realm of experience. You know, they just know whether they like it or not, whether it's entertaining or not, but they don't really appreciate the full picture. One should expect them, though. But so anyway, so let's go back. Tell me about, you said you're from Hammond, and then you mentioned later that you came down, your parents are here now. Tell me, what's the progression? Let's start with Hammond and move forward a little bit.
We grew up there, and then we both went to Ball State University for undergraduate work.
Okay.
And then we both did our graduate work out in Boston at Boston University. And it was coming back from there, you and it stayed up in Hammond to work in Chicago because you knew a couple of designers there. I had a gig in Tennessee for the governor's school. I was designing their set for this, you know, the summer. So I was actually down there driving up through Indianapolis when I stopped to see some friends here, and they were like, "Hey, you should move down here." And, you know, we've got work and that's, you know, we're looking for a designer for this show. And so I said, "Well, sure." You know, I really had no ties or anything. So I packed everything in my car and just drove down here and been here ever since. We moved our folks down here. I can't remember. So my sister actually lived in Arkansas with her husband. He was in the Air Force. And then they actually, when he retired, they moved up to Hammond to take care of my folks who were sort of needed some help. And they actually bought a house down here with in-law quarters. So they moved them all down here.
How long ago was that?
That was some, let's see, they both passed since then.
Well, it was
10 years ago?
About 10 years. I was
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so Ball State, it appears that their reputation is solid. It's, you know, they have a national brand now, thanks to David Letterman, of course, and other things. But I've always known that Ball State offered a quality theater education. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I really enjoyed going to Ball State. There's a lot of hands-on. It wasn't nearly the size it is now. I mean, it was a much smaller department at the time. So there's a lot of hands-on experience when we were there. I enjoyed the professors and the atmosphere.
So it was and classes were small, or it was sort of,
Yeah, definitely. Not like now. Now it has become a phenomenal theater and dance department.
In a theater school like that, you were able to have the hands-on for everything. You learned a bit about everything.
Yeah, I think at the time we took acting classes, design, technical. I mean, you kind of went through all of them, and then you could specify later in your,
Looking back, how did having all of that experience and background, how did it enhance or inform your own careers professionally?
Oh, well, and I think all theater artists should have a well-rounded education that way and really understand what everyone is trying to accomplish in a production, whether that be the director, the music director, the choreographer, the actors, the dancer, understanding what they're going through and what that process is all about, I think helps you in not only being a great collaborator, but sort of appreciating what everybody else is doing. And I think with that appreciation is really necessary for
a well-rounded education, basically.
Yeah.
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 As opposed to something that's going to sort of tunnel you into one aspect
Sure.
of the theater.
And I imagine that's where you got your background, or that's where you learned it's an art, I believe, collaboration.
Oh, yes.
Sure. Yeah, working with a lot of artists, high maintenance artists, emotional artists, passionate artists, and all coming together for shared vision. That's not easy.
No. When it works, it's great, and it's really rewarding. When it doesn't work, well, you just grin and bear it.
Yeah. Well, I know I have a theater background, not to the extent you have, but those days of when you're young, everyone, you think you know it all, and then you get around, other A types, and sometimes it can be very explosive.
Sure. Yes.
But when it works, it's magical, right?
Oh yeah.
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 So, Ryan, is your primary field lighting? So talk about why did you choose lighting as your pursuit?
I would look at, it was back in high school. Again, we were kind of doing everything because you're in high school. And at one point I did the lighting for a production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, where I helped on it. Now, this is back in the day of auto transformers, and there were no computers, and you were running around and working these big levers. But I remember starting to mix color and finding it fascinating. And for some reason, it just kind of hit. Now, when we went to First of Ball State, we weren't really specific as to what we were going for in theater.
You weren't on a track.
Yeah, we weren't on a track. We were just there. We did get scholarships to go there. So as we went through classes and design, and for some reason, just lighting always seemed fascinating to me. And it felt very natural for me to do it. I don't know why. I understood it, because there are a lot of people who will take a lighting class, and just go, I have no idea what this is about. But for me, I seemed to pick it up, and it made sense.
Were you influenced by television, film growing up? Television, film, visual art. What are some of the things that informed your interest? Did you one day look at a painting? So that's really cool, the way the artist created that shadow or that kind of stuff. Did you delve that deep?
No, I don't know if I ever thought of it
or
that way.
TV or a movie that caught your eye the way it was lit.
Definitely TV. Watched a lot of TV. I remember that. And I liked the visual on TV, not just the lighting, but all of it. But what the camera does for television, I realized lighting design does basically for the theater. And focusing attention and creating composition and the constantly changing through time. It's a time art, because it's got to happen through time. It was just fascinating. It's like a dance almost.
And were you aware early on that this connection between how the lighting can move the story forward or add to the story?
Yes, definitely. By the time we started at Ball State and started working and doing classes and working on productions, that's when I realized how important it was. And I did a lot of hands-on when I was there.
Were you a theater kid in high school?
We were in theater, choir, the whole bit. We even took dance classes at a dance studio. So, we worked backstage.
Musicals too?
What's that?
Do you appear in musicals?
Oh, yeah.
Such as?
I think we did MAME once, at the University of Northwest, MAME. We were in a production of that. What else did we do? Evita.
Wow.
Once Upon a Mattress. Oh, yeah. Once Upon a Mattress.
Where was this? What high school?
Well, we went to Morton Senior High School.
Which one?
Morton Senior High School.
Yeah.
Man, now we're going back. You were Charlie Brown and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Rob. That's the one I was doing the lighting for. And I think I also did some choreography for that.
So you were doing lighting back in high school?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you have a mentor?
Mr. Edwards was the theater teacher, that kind of taught all. And he had a lot of knowledge. And when anyone had interest, and Rob and I had a lot of interest. We were there a lot, backstage, on stage. Yeah, he would teach us what he could, in the time that we had. And, at one point I thought, like Rob had mentioned, we had taught at Purdue for a while. I always thought I would go into teaching and stay. But, after 4 years, I realized I felt happier doing it than I was teaching it.
Well,
I mean, I enjoyed teaching,
but teach lighting in a university setting, isn't that also part of your job to light the student production?
Some of them, yeah. Yeah. So I would do maybe one show a semester or one show a year, depending. But, I was used to doing 20. So I really enjoy doing it.
And you taught kids how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was that satisfying?
It was a little bit. There are aspects I enjoyed of it. And then aspects that I thought, oh, I got to do that again. No, I did enjoy the teaching aspect. Being a professor, though, and working on that track, not all of I can't say that I enjoyed all of that, working toward tenure and all of that. But
Okay. Yeah, all of that comes with it. So, and how about working with the kids itself? Was that satisfying? Were you patient and
yes,
nurturing and all those things?
I always tried to be.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. So I always tried to be.
Yeah. Okay, so Rob, tell me about your background and how you came to set design as your passion.
I would say, it's the same thing. I mean, we had worked, our sister actually got us involved in the theater in high school. She said, Mr. Edwards needs some people working on the sets and everything else. So I wanted to go talk to him. She was just trying to get us involved when we started high school. And so we went in and he put us right to work. He could always use the hands. Yeah. So I took quite a few art classes by then. I've been drawing since I was a kid. Okay. Since I was little. And I remember Dad buying me my first art set. It was the Bob Ross art kit, or it had things that the sketches that you copy, charcoal, pencils, and all that. And so I've been drawing for a long time. And then I actually thought when we got into theater, I didn't know what we were going to do in theater. We just do that. Also, we liked that program when we went down to visit, and they gave us some scholarship money, and so we went down. But we were musicals down there. We auditioned for shows. We both worked in the shop. We were both work studying.
Were you ever cast together and everything?
Yeah. Mostly in like choruses, dancing courses, all that stuff.
Okay.
But then it was maybe the second year, I think. I think we were sophomores when Kip Schauger, who was the designer there at the time at Ball State, asked, do you want to design the set for the show in the studio? And I said, sure, I'll do it. And and he sort of took us through the process, and I really enjoyed it. And then and that really that was the track I was going to be on. Mm-hmm. I just really enjoyed it.
Well, did it start your love for that visual set design? Did that start with visual art?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, earlier.
And like Ryan, you studied it, the work, and then that's what attracted you to creating pictures on stage.
Yeah. And all around visual storytelling. So, I teach a class, which is a more general version of what I teach a class for, pretty much anyone, prospective in the creative arts on television and movie design, set design specifically in art direction and all of that. And so when we look, if you look at a sitcom, say you look at Friends or something like that, if you just look at the set, what is it telling you about the characters who live here? Is it, you look at the girl's apartment, it's got big overstuffed furniture and it's comfortable and bright colors and everything else. And then you go to across the hall to the guy's apartment and it's brown wood, leather furniture, kind of bare on the, and some cheese, but you could definitely get a distinct idea of the people that live there. Mm-hmm. And that, I really enjoy that. And sometimes it's very specific to character, and sometimes it's just I'm creating more of an environment that will fit the play. And I can find that to be.
When you both go into designing for a work, for a play, what's the extent of your, quote, due diligence, like starting with reading the script? How do you approach that?
I have a list of things that I'm looking for. I try to just give it a fun read first, just to enjoy it as a play. But then I'll go back in and start jotting notes. What are some of the requirements? What are some of the things I really need to discuss with the director? And what kind of play is this? Is this more presentational? Is there a lot of direct address to the audience where we're breaking the fourth wall? Is it more realistic than that? Is it more poetic? I always go judge things on a scale from, say, something like Shakespeare to, and then on the other end of that, maybe David Mamet. You know what I mean? Or something very more naturalistic. So when you look at then there's everything in between. So so what is going to best tell the stories, what I'm looking for.
You mentioned talking to the director, so there's the other element of you're collaborating with someone who has their own vision. Mm-hmm. So I guess generally, do you find most of the time it's a meeting of minds, or sometimes do you have really deep different visions?
I try not to go in with, the whole thing done in my head. I try not to do that. I try to, before I come up with it, I really want to talk to the director first and see, because I could jump on board with any kind of vision or concept for a play. I mean, they're the ones steering the ship. So I'm either going to stay on board or get off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be.
Well, you learn that in the theater if you're serious about it. You learn how to stay in your lane and offer your input either when asked or whatever. And how about you?
It would be the exact same method. Read it for fun first, and then reading it for whatever they can give, whether it's naturalistic, is it daylight, nighttime? What are we trying to create? And the flow. What's the flow, especially in musicals? What's the flow from scene to scene, and how do we want to approach that? But when it comes down to specifics, then I also kind of wait for the scene designer, and what am I lighting? Not only waiting for the director and what they say. So before I ever settle on anything in my mind, I want to make sure I get an understanding of what everyone else is doing, and then begin to pull all of that out.
Well, I don't know you that well, so I don't know your temperament. But I wonder what I'd love to hear both of you. What were some of your best experiences in collaboration, and did you have any which were a nightmare?
I won't mention any name.
Yeah, no names.
No.
I've had quite a few really great experiences. But I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of the same directors.
Especially like at IRT. And
Yeah. So they're, one of my favorite directors, coming in with Skip Career. We did a lot of stuff out of Jiva. We did, Guess He's Coming to Dinner Here. That also went out there.
Sure.
We have the same temperament, a lot of the same qualities in just who we are in our personalities. So we always gelled really easily together. And he was very collaborative. So
You trusted each other.
that's exactly it. And that's a lot.
That's important.
Yeah. Do I trust them, or, just their artistic sense? Do I trust that they're going to look out for my best interest, not just, in the script, but, also looking at what I'm trying to accomplish and understanding that. So it was always a really great collaboration. And there's been several others. I wasn't going to mention any names. I just mentioned that because
sure.
We had a 25-year relationship working on shows.
Sure.
That was great. But again, all directors are different. So it's really, when I'm trying to get to know somebody, at one time, I was like, I'm not going to work with another new director. And I can't remember how many years ago. I just want to work with the people I already know. I don't, because there's a whole process when you work.
Well, there's a reason why people like repertory for that reason.
Yeah. And, I was fortunate enough to work with a couple Brits, John Green, who brought me into Butler. Before he left, he was always a great collaborator. And then I worked with another guy, Bob Carlton, and they both approached the theater with that repertory company, very, very English feel. They always, they would hire the same actors, they would hire the same design, you know what I mean? Because they loved having that sort of easy flow of conversation, and the vocabulary is already established.
Yeah.
You get along. He knows what I like. I know what they're going to want, or what they're going to like.
Did you find at any point that they were open to discovering or giving breaks to new talent as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because
mentoring people and helping them along with their careers, just get their foot in the door.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think at their heart there was always like one or two new people that we'd bring in.
So on the other spectrum, not mentioning names, you had to have run into some My Way or the Highway directors.
Sure. I'm
high risk?
Yes. yeah, in a way. I think it's just, I don't know if it's in their background, in their training, they're just in who they are personally. But when I worked with a director who just sort of dictate, this is what I want, this is, that's it. And then, you work with that, and I can work that way. You just want me to be a pair of hands, then fine. I'll just draft it up.
It's just a job done, right?
Yeah. And there's no collaboration in that. When you don't have that, in a lot of ways, it's not worth it, because the theater doesn't pay very well anyway. So if you don't enjoy it,
it's too short. Yeah.
What's the point of doing it?
Well, let me ask you, on those occasions, in your estimation, how would they receive those shows? Was there a pattern there that, you get what you pay for? If you have a director like that, it's just his whole thing, and it's not a collaboration. How are they successful, productions like that?
I think so. I mean,
it can be.
It can be. Yeah. I don't know if the ends justify the means in that sense, but it can be.
Yeah.
And I tried not to, repeat that process.
I like to think that the culture you create, in the leadership trickles down and makes a better product.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I've been in places where where they've still been able to get the product, but the way they get there is
So a
dysfunctional.
dysfunctional team can turn out good. Oh,
Sure, if you put people around you that know what they're doing,
Sure.
and if,
Yeah.
certainly they'll be.
It sounds like you guys have had the luxury over your long career to be able to, to be about somewhat selective about who you work with, right? For the most part.
I think so. Yeah.
Or as opposed to your struggling days when you had to say yes to everything just to make a living.
Absolutely. Fortunately, for the longest time, but with the Greg Hancock Dance Company, Greg and I collaborated on a lot of pieces. And his musical that he wrote that,
I saw it 3 times.
You saw it 3 times?
Well, I'm Mexican heritage.
Oh,
So,
there you go. And
I mean, his new piece, he's doing a concert, his new concert next couple weeks.
the next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there. I still time for him.
It's called, let's give him a plug. It's called Spring.
Spring Equinox.
Yeah.
It's going to bring back some of the older pieces that we haven't done in a while. And
It's a collection of stuff.
it's a collection and one new piece, The Letting You Crack Out, which he's premiering next week. And it should be great. We load in on Monday.
I have always been totally amazed at how prolific he is, and his vision and his creativity is off the charts.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, to write a score and then, to do all the costuming and to have a hand in everything. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yes,
It's remarkable.
he never sleeps.
Yeah, well, and
You'll laugh when he hears that.
I'd love to see his post books where he travels to India and all these exotic places, and his repertoire. I mean, no one does that kind of repertoire. I mean, if you just go to Gregory Hancock, you can learn so much about the world. His worldview, I think, is really unique. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you talk about someone who's really struggled to keep a company alive. Dance companies are one thing. Any company.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. But you're right. Keeping a company in general nowadays, it's difficult. I hope that changes, but all we can do is just keep going and hopefully.
As I did with Rob, share some of your experiences, the best and the worst.
I'm with Rob. I mean, there are times I've enjoyed working with people. John Green was one of them. The 3 of us had done many shows together and really enjoyed doing them down at the IRT. Greg, of course, because I've been with him now almost 30 years. So I started with him in 98. Well, okay, maybe not. 27, yeah, I think it's 27, 28 years now. I've worked with Greg. I started working with the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater as their resident lighting designer back in, I want to say 2009 or 10. And that's where I usually, nowadays, probably meet new directors mostly, is when they bring someone in. And like Rob was saying, it's difficult, working with someone new, especially the older you get, because it's just like, okay, here we go. Because you have to develop a language together.
Yeah.
So the more the more you work with them, the easier it becomes. Mm-hmm. But that first one's always a little difficult.
You're in a more challenging time crunch there too.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Plus you gotta communicate, but you got to do it within 3 days. Mm-hmm. You have 3 days to take one down.
Singularity as a reviewer and just a fan. I'm a dinosaur. I've been around forever, but I've seen many shows now, like 2 or 3 times through my career. Different productions, maybe professional and educational and community. So, they're always different because of that alone. But Beef and Boards, I've always been so impressed how you take a story, it can be a massive scope, and then you compartmentalize it on that stage, and how you do that. It always floors me, the ingenuity that it takes to do that well. Even in a cast, when usually you have a chorus of 30 people and then you got 5 people doing it on that stage.
Yeah. No, I've always been impressed. I always going, how are you guys going to we going to do this? Yeah. But it always opens. I mean, put it there. Michael Layton, who used to be the resident scene designer, he retired, did a wonderful job keeping the space open so that they had place to move, but still try to provide.
Well, it seems like their space certainly doesn't limit their programming choices. I mean,
Nope.
Done all the big musicals, and they've done it that time. After the food rolls out, and they come up.
They come on, they roll the stage down, and off you go. You know,
Again, I've seen a lot of Broadway stuff, and then to see the same product on that stage, and I'm drawn into it, and I believe it. This is like, that's what theater's all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can do a whole lot with very little.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever worked at Beef Boards?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Have you ever worked in tiny spaces like what I'm talking about to go shift your set design from a large, Marat theater size to
I have worked at small
a black box?
Yeah, and it's all about the choices that you make. I mean, there's especially in spaces that are limited like that. You have to really determine what's going to tell the story the best, what's going to serve the action.
Yeah,
and then you try to pick and choose those pieces, and that's what you.
Gosh, again, seeing as much theater as I have, I'm conscious too of the development of technique and how. When it started, and I don't know how long, you would know this more than I, when did the hybrid start with the use of video? For instance, I first saw it really at a production of the Indie Opera, where they had a videographer and they created worlds, the opera sets. It changed business because the sets could be minimal. But if they had a good video, they could be anywhere in the world,
That started in... Well, I'll go back to a show that I worked on down at IRT where we were doing projections.
Yeah.
And we were using actual slide projectors.
Oh, yeah.
We got a machine that actually hooked all three of them up and we could run them all together off of one unit. And we thought that was like the end technology. And then maybe 5 years, 6 years after that, video just sort of exploded. I would say that.
What is commonplace now?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of the theaters have that equipment now. And the software... there are several kinds of software that you can use. I just worked with a videographer, designer on Murder on the Orient Express, who did some background stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he was using a whole different program than I was used to seeing some, other people use. So it was, and just watching how he mapped the stage, mapped the surfaces, and I was just wow, because it's come so far back.
Rob, you created those incredible cars, the railroad, the set, and Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes, yeah. That was a challenge. I did that. It was the same.
You recreated the elegance, the luxury, the whole, the wood.
Oh, yeah. That's
mahogany, but you made it look mahogany.
Yeah.
And the golden trim and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was a fun show to work in. It was a good team. Risa Brain, the director, she used to be the associate here at IRT.
I went up opening night. I don't do that often, but I had to see all the detail up close. And even up close, it wasn't, sometimes the eye can fool you could do, but the detail was just amazing.
Yeah, they did a great job.
You have a team of artists at IRT that are the best.
Oh, yeah. They're really incredible.
Yeah. And nothing shabby. Didn't Beef and Boards do Murder on the Orient?
They just did. And
yes, I saw that.
Yeah. Again, a very different approach to it because of the space. But they just did.
So video is here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
Once you make the initial investment, there's so much you can do that can ease off on budgets. Or
I was going to ask you would know how much it can impact on the budget, giving you could take all that money they would have used there and put it elsewhere. Is that how it works? In a set or lighting or whatever? The technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think so. You have to bring on a whole other designer, bring them on. It used to be, if you were doing projection, all that types of stuff, designer would take care of that or the imaging, and now it's a whole other.
Now, how does that collaboration work when you've got a video designer who's working with a set designer on the world?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
really. I think so. I've worked with, because I don't necessarily want to tell the other designers, sure, you have to do that,
Yeah.
But I try to work, certainly we collaborate on what the surfaces are going to be. And then it's really up to the director too. And okay, how are we going to use the vision to tell this particular story? What's that going to be? And how does that work visually with the set and with the costume, with the lighting? How does all of that work? So it's just another layer that has to include.
Well, the hybrid, I'm a purist. I like using my imagination, and, I question whether it started, and I come from a TV background, and so it should have been easy for me to accept it. But like I said, I'm a purist when it comes to theater. And that's what I love about theater, that, you have to use your imagination. But when they've got the video, like I saw a production here of Anastasia, and they show Russia, they're taking you to Russia and making it realistic, It's really quite a huge addition, to the art form. But so it's here to stay. Well, speaking of technology, we talked about this before. So you have both been the continuum of technology and how it's applied to the art form, right?
All the way back to that article.
All the way to the slide.
All the way back.
The carousel slides.
All the way back from that.
And so now you got software and
computer software, LEDs, everything's changing over to LED.
Do you have to do training to learn all of that stuff, the computer stuff?
I think you just pick up the manual and start, and that's how I would pick up everything.
So you both have those right hand brain things. You can do technical and.
Yeah, I guess I can't. I don't like to. I mean, someone tells me to read a manual. I'm like, oh, okay. But you do it because you got to know how it works.
So YouTube's.
But yeah. Well, yeah. Today the kids would go in their YouTube.
Well, when we were even in graduate school, no one was really teaching CAD drawing, computer-aided drafting or drawing, or design, computer-aided design. And so I did everything by hand for years, and until. Some people are getting on me. It's like, why are you still hand drafting? Why aren't you on Vectorworks, which is one of the AutoCAD? And I'm like, well, yeah, fine. And I think I finally did.
Finally.
I finally.
So did you take a high school drafting class?
Yeah. There was a high school
I did, and I did it because I was lazy. I was a good student. Oh, well, that'll be easy. But you know what? It's like I've been able to apply that to my.
Oh, sure.
To my eye, at least, to my work as a writer to describe stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's always fascinated me about the training that has been part of both of your work, the training that you had. And by the way, did you say where was your graduate work?
At Boston University.
What was that like? I've known a lot of entertainers and musicians who went to school there, and they received excellent educations.
I loved going to school at Boston. At the time, they were they're not anymore, but they used to be at the Huntington Theater on the Huntington Ave. And as a lighting student, lighting graduate, we used to assist a lot of designers coming in and working with the.
Isn't that, and also it used to be Boston where you previewed shows were on the way to Broadway, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. I thought it was a mainstay at the time. Maybe not. So, but what was Boston like living as two impressionable kids from Indiana?
It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It was expensive, and we were living on stipends, so I didn't really get to do a lot of things. I mean,
you'd share a walk-up apartment somewhere, and
yeah,
there were us two, and we had two roommates, so there was four of us living in a 2-bedroom. What do you call them?
upper floor of a house. It was like,
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I bet you had fun, Roy, living in Boston.
I had a lot of fun. Just walking around.
Yeah. Did you take the train to New York, or do you ever do that kind of stuff?
I did. Yeah, I did. I was assisting a designer there my last semester, and I think I trained there and back.
But there's lay the foundation for your network, your professional network, by any chance? People you met back then, you're still connected to in any way?
Some, yeah. I met TJ at Boston University, and when we got back from Boston, and we were up in Chicago, I gave him a call because I knew he was there a couple of years before I got back. And he called and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a show at the Goodman Studio with Mary Zimmerman, and I could use an assistant." And I said, "Bah, I'm your man. I'll be right up." And that's when I got started. And then we still talk on occasion every now and then.
Did you, throughout your career, have you made it a point to see work, other people's work, other theaters, dance companies, whatever? Do you go to the ballet, the opera? Do you go see theater, or is it really a matter you have a family and you have a professional life?
I don't get out as much as I would like, maybe because of, not only my schedule work-wise, but also family and us just finding time. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since we've seen anything outside of I'm actually working on. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since we've seen stuff.
Well, then what is your sense of our performing arts scene from your viewpoint?
From my viewpoint,
being in the trenches,
I think it's growing since I first moved here. I know there are more dance companies. I haven't necessarily seen them, but I know that there's smaller dance companies around. Of course, Dance Kaleidoscope is still here. There's Indianapolis Ballet and all of that. And, as far as theater, there are people producing a lot everywhere. Sometimes I get a little confused. I said, who's doing that one? Who's doing that? But not only do you still have some of the older organizations like the IRT, the Phoenix, the Civic Cilia, Beef and Boards, but you have a lot of smaller companies and individual producers going out and trying to do work.
We know the work of Zach and Zach, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we've got a lot. Casey Ross, she's an independent. She has a company, Catalyst. And so there's still a great, from my viewpoint, because I see everything, it's similar to what happened in Chicago when all those storefronts were going, and they're still going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's kind of what started it until it, became a world force. A lot of those people ended up in New York, Steppenwolf and all.
Yeah.
You guys have been able to make a living off of what you do, being in indie. You also, whenever you need to or want to, you can take gigs outside the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside the state.
Sure.
I love looking at programs, Rob, to see the credits. And, you have your own list of regional theaters that you spent time at. What is that life like to go from theater to theater, all these different companies?
It's challenging. It can be rewarding. For a lot of those companies, I was always working with someone I really liked, and it certainly were the team that I really wanted to spend time with. Only a couple times did I ever line things up back to back to back to back. To where I was just sick and tired of being in a theater every week
or being on the road. That's what I'm.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part. I'm a homebody. I prefer being at home than anywhere else.
Did you and Constance ever consciously try to book together?
No, because of we have a son. And when he was growing up, we tried it did happen one time. We tried not to schedule our gigs too close together. So someone was always there. Mm-hmm. There was one time where that didn't work out. It was really only a couple days where she was in Rochester, New York doing a show, and I needed to be in Philadelphia. And so we talked to the school and said, would it be okay with you guys, and if you give him his homework, if he spends a week in Rochester, New York with his mom? And they were like, that's fine. And we'll give you the order. So he flew to Philly with me. I put him on a plane to Rochester, and she picked him up, and he spent the week there.
First Constance not doing that anymore.
No, she's running a theaters.
Pretty well. What is your viewpoint of how the Phoenix Theater and its concept is working? Obviously, it's now a cultural center, as Brian envisioned it should be.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fantastic. I think the companies that the collective that they're working with, all the companies, NAPTEM and Indie Shakes and Summit. I think the American Lives Theater. I don't want to try.
Oh yeah, isn't that I ran into it? American. Yeah.
American Lives Theater. Yes.
All their work is just wow.
Yeah, I think the diversity of work that's being produced by all the not just the Phoenix but all the collaborative theaters. I think it's fantastic.
Summer performance.
Yeah.
It's the Black Company, Naptown Actors Theater, NATTC, whatever. Anyway. So, from my viewpoint, I love seeing the development of the audiences. Indianapolis is still segregated, at least in the arts. You see only white people or Black people. And now I'm finally beginning to see audiences that reflect the community, and that's happening. And it's happening at IRT as well, too, Sure. I'm seeing more and more integration. That, it's intentionally the programming, that's making that happen, We've been calling ourselves world-class for a long time, but I didn't really believe that it really reflected the community until I saw what was happening in the theaters, The opera and the ballet have a long time ago, and the symphony as well, but they even are becoming a little bit more diverse, so I think it's a good thing, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So who were some of your favorite Indianapolis directors? You probably know them all at some point. You worked with most of them.
I'm working with a former student on Oak right now, but he's actually in Chicago. Michael Burke. I love him. Michael's great. He was incredible.
He was a student of yours?
Yeah, he was a student at Butler, and he was one of those. He was a student that you look at and said, yeah, whatever this guy's going to do, he's going to be successful.
Starting with no exit
Smart.
when he was still in school.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, let's talk about your butler career. I want to make sure that, I know that's no small thing.
No, I've enjoyed. I've been there for about I think 20 years now. I love the faculty there. My colleagues, they're incredible.
Diane Timmerman, she's still the chair.
She is, and Wayne Fisher's our director. He teaches directly there. Our newest faculty member, Andres Lopez, he teaches our theory, history. He also is a stage combat certified, so he does a lot of that. And then and acts as our intimacy director when needed. Elena Artemiev is she's our main
intimacy director now become a bona fide field of study, a butler?
we don't have a class or anything in that, or so I know that when it's needed, Andres usually steps into that role.
Well, the reason I asked is Claire Wilcher was a guest.
Yeah,
she's like in demand.
Yeah,
she can't keep up with it. But I asked her who governs it, and she says it comes out of actually a company where they certify intimacy directors now, but it's just the beginning of like professionalizing it,
Sure.
And it's only been, she said, it started with the Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it began. And and now it's pretty, for the most part, if you can afford it, you have an intimacy director. I'm not quite sure, from my standpoint, if I noticed a difference, in the work, but I can only imagine that before it came along that you really had to have people who are willing to collaborate on all that stuff and do it comfortably,
Sure.
And the director certainly, someone had to take a hold of it though and make sure everyone was comfortable. That was the
And I think that's what it really what it was all about.
And make it look realistic.
Yeah.
And then so that the actors needed to know that they were safe in a safe environment. That the director, the actor you're working with, and even the crew, that everybody, like there wasn't anything going on that was untoward.
Right. Right.
So I find that's a really fascinating addition to the whole collaboration scene. And are you doing any teaching on the side? Do you?
No, I left teaching a while ago, and I was doing some adjunct work for Butler here and there when I first got back to Civic in 2005. But I just been so busy, especially with the Civic season, the Beef and Porch season, and Greg's season. It's just really tough to do anything else.
And you work with or for Michael Lasley.
Oh yeah,
I think it's brilliant. And what he's done with that Civic Theater and its product,
It's been a journey. It really has.
I often comment for community avocational theater that if you've never been to a Broadway show, you can get a good taste of what that's like going to a Civic show, really.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, thank you. Really, I would have no reason to be disingenuous about that.
Yeah.
That's my job. But, the quality of the sound and the equipment, it's obvious they all did their homework when they built the darn thing and ordered the equipment, right?
Right.
Yes, they anticipated that they wanted this quality. You think it's true?
We did what we had our hand in when they were
you were part
in designing. Yeah, early on we had a bit of a hand. We kind of came in a little late, but they really did listen to what we were saying.
Did they give you everything you wanted in the budget?
I don't know about everything.
All the bells and whistles.
All the bells, but we got quite a bit and have been using it ever since. It was.
Does it make
life
much easier when you got your tools?
Yes. Absolutely. You have no idea.
Yeah.
It does. It makes life a lot easier, especially with lighting and sound. I mean, if we have what we need, we could do quite a bit. We just finished updating all of the beefing boards with LEDs, so that is now all updated, which has made my life easier there. A lot less moving things around, a lot more flexibility. We can do more there. So we're in that process now of updating the Tarkington too.
Are you?
Yes, we're going to update that one.
So
hopefully within the next year.
Campaign going on for that? Or?
Well, it's not necessarily me doing it. It'd be more the center. I'm not sure exactly. I know there's talk of updating, but I'm not sure really who that lies on. I mean, I believe it. Well, probably owns some in the center, and I know the Palladium's been updated last year, and they're going to work to update each of the spaces. So that's going to be wonderful.
Why don't you go ahead and plug what's coming up? something that you're working on, things that you're working on.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. We got next week is Greg Hancock Dance Theater Spring Equinox next Friday and Saturday. After that, we start loading in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which opens on the 25th. Sometimes I have to look. Also that same week, the week before, opening Church Basement Ladies at the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater. So those are the three things I have coming up.
What are you doing this summer?
The summer.
Shakespeare?
I don't do the Shakespeare. Laura still is doing that one. Yeah. Laura Glover, a good friend. And I haven't, and we're horrible, but I haven't even been to the space because usually we take vacation. But hopefully we can get to the new space this season. Haven't.
I don't know why.
The pictures look great. The pictures look fantastic.
I always loved that monument, and it made me sad to see it crumble. And there it is.
And there it is.
They did a beautiful job restoring it.
And have you done work at Indy Shakespeare?
I have.
And Constance is active there frequently. Yeah.
It's been a little while, but yeah. But what they did with that whole space, the monument is.
So what do you have to plug coming up? Or what can you plug?
Oak at the Phoenix. That opens in May. It's called Oak. Michael Burke directing.
Is that a Phoenix production?
Phoenix production. Yep.
Who's directing that?
Michael Burke.
Oh,
Burke is directing that. And then I'm relaxing all summer.
Nice.
That's my summer. And then in the fall, I'm working on Rocket Man, which will be at the Phoenix as well.
Rocket Man. What is that about?
That's about the creation of the YouTube rocket program here in the States and bringing over all of the German scientists that were brought over to do that, Braun and a lot of those guys. And they were all situated in Huntsville, Alabama, and they created the rocket program.
How extensive is that staff?
It just started on it. We just had our first meeting about a week ago. So I'm still, it's a bit of a complicated piece, but yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you're interested in visual art. Well, you've always drawn. So, of course, all the designers, set designers, and fashion design, it started with them sketching, right?
Yeah.
And so is that kind of what piqued your interest in bringing it alive?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's that. I've always loved architecture too, so that fascinates me. The research that I get to do, the visual research, I loved that. Whether it's period research or whether it's just like,
didn't Google make your life so much better?
Oh yes, yeah. I remember spending. Designers used to collect.
How do we do that? Go to the library.
I remember going.
The card file.
Yeah,
and then have to track that stuff down. You get to know the librarians, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And you do sketching too as a designer.
Yeah. And I remember those days of, you would collect books just to have the images, and you don't need it anymore.
All designers.
Did you guys ever collaborate on something of your own? Did you ever do a show of your own?
Just with Shadow Age.
With Shadow.
So I'm going to plant a seed. Wouldn't it be cool if you put something together like that?
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, if you just like to work in the summer, if you haven't noticed.
What would you say if you were doing a Chamber of Commerce promotion for our city's arts? We know the sports here are fabulous, right? So what most people around the world do now.
In the moment, I'm not sure if I could. I think it's a vibrant community. It's also
it's a creative community.
Creative and all inclusive. I think certainly, at least to the theater, I think even artists outside of that, I think a lot of us know one another. And so we always try to support what each other is trying to do. And
I'm happy to hear that because, I happen to think that the competition is less than the collaboration here because it's so incestuous, There's only a certain amount of work and, you need to get along. You need to be kind to each other because you never know who you're going to be working with forever, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I think everyone benefits when we're supportive of each other's work and respectful of it. And I think everyone that is a part of that, if there's a way to help, then, we're certainly going to offer that kind of support.
So both of you, starting with you, Ryan, what would you recommend to some kid out there, like where you came from, who might be interested in make a living out of this?
Well, my humor is to tell them to go find another job, but find something that makes money. No, I often used to tell students this too. Lee Watson was a famous lighting designer who taught at Purdue for a number of years and had a book. And he said he always taught his students, and I agree, that there are two things you can do after school, especially if you go to college. You can go to New York, try to find an assistant, be an assistant to somebody and work your way up and meet people and try to get your Broadway show or work. Or you can go to one of the smaller cities across the country that's not New York and try to work from the grassroots and try to work within the companies or the professional companies that are there, or help create professional companies that are there and do your work there. And he said both are viable ways of creating work. We obviously chose the latter of those. And that's what I would tell them. No matter where you practice it, it's still you. Whatever art you create is still you. Just because you're not in New York doing it doesn't mean you're not an artist. And then it's not relevant.
That old negative stereotype. Well, if you were any good, you'd be in New York City.
Exactly. I disagree with that, because there's only so many people that can work in New York City. It's just that simple. So if you want to make an impact on a community, find a smaller one and make an impact,
Well, that's why set designers, lighting designers of your caliber, that's why, they're so sought after around the country at all these different regional theaters that you worked at. Their standards are very high for what they're creating, right? Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So you're in kind of demand. I mean, you could pick and choose right now, right? In your careers? Yeah.
It still follows the director, I think. If you know the same people, because that's, Rob put it earlier, it's really about who you want to work with.
Yeah.
So I developed quite a base here.
Both of you have built careers laying these foundations that just come with the territory. If you do the good work and work with the right people, it will reward itself.
Sure.
So what would you like to say to indie audience or people listening anywhere else about indie, the scene here?
I say, go buy a ticket to see your show.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant you to address also the question about what would you say to young people who are like, oh gosh, I'd like to get into set design, but could I succeed?
That depends on the person, and you're going to determine that success. There's our foundational skills that someone will have to work on to be a set, drawing and certainly painting and all of that. So finding a program that will give you all of that, a college program that will give you all of that. I always encourage people, I can only do so much at the undergraduate level. We spend so much time together with our classes. So I always encourage it. That's something they want to pursue. I would say, look at graduate schools. Yeah. And I always suggest graduate schools in larger cities that have relationships with professional theaters.
MFA
programs that have, but those that are attached hopefully to some kind of regional theater. Because working with alongside the Huntington people, and those designers that came in, that education is incredible. I'm just watching, Jim Joe used to, when he designed, his drawing and his style, he did everything in forced perspective, and everything else was totally different from, say, John Arnault when he came in, or Hugh Landwehr when he came in. These guys were all worked all over the country. And so just to see their work, to sit and talk with them, that kind of education is.
What's your track record of Butler, who've gone on to do work professionally in the field? I mean, I'm sure that you can't keep track of everybody, but they've done pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. I really only had one student who went on to study set design, but she left and I think started working for Mattel. Designing. I think I'm pretty sure that's where she ended up, which I think is great. And the more I think about it, it's like, oh, that's perfect for that person. But yeah,
I don't think people realize that you can use a set design career in all kinds of other stuff, though. Corporates.
Sure. In New York,
parties, even parties.
Yeah, event. Yeah. There was a designer, and she lived up in Minnesota, and one of her big gigs every year was the Wells Fargo big event, and that allowed her to pretty much pick up just a few more other,
and also television, commercials.
There, you have to be in a very specific area, like either in LA or New York or something, because that's where a lot of that stuff is going to get filmed. Not necessarily here, like national stuff.
Have you done any film work here, by the way?
No.
Yeah. They're not there yet. There's no big studio at the state. I thought they were trying to build something in Bloomington, I thought.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. I feel like I've finally gotten to know you. That's just great.
Well, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot. As I said, my mission is to not only promote Indy the arts, but also give people a sort of a broader view of what goes into art, and that people make a living at it. So it's not just it's just not a hobby for people. So they should keep that in mind. That when you support the arts, you're also supporting the economy.
Oh yeah,
and we all make a contribution to the city, and now it takes a lot to get people to realize that a lot of the growth we've had is due to the fact that corporations recruit people, but those people want to know, well, what's your theater scene? Do you have a symphony? Do you have an opera? Do you have any dinner theaters? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for giving me your time, and I'll see you on the aisle.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official neighborhood newsletter for 16 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.